Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conscious Conversion, a weekly podcast about how we bridge the gap between business and spirit, money and meaning, technology and regeneration in a wildly changing world. In a time of a ridiculous amount of polarity and uncertainty, this podcast explores how together we will connect. We are connecting across the planet, across our differences, and across all the dimensions as we build the new earth and the new paradigm together. I am your loving host, Sarah Yemtich, and today I am delighted to introduce you and me to the beautiful and brilliant Arabella Blaker. She's a nutritional therapist, naturopathic doctor, and CEO of the Arabella Solution. She healed her own incurable illness and dedicated her life to helping others understand how to heal and change their lives with an approach that is fun, enjoyable, and rich in connection, pleasure, and wisdom. My favorite things. She's helped people to gain insights and healing they never thought possible and continues to do so on the daily. Welcome. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice hearing you read that out. I was like, oh, go off, sis.
Well, hold on a second. I'll just ask my opening question because I was going to say, is there anything else you want to say about yourself that's not included in our readable bio? But I think the question will lend itself to that. On the planet right now in this incarnation that you are beautifully undertaking, how would you describe who you are and your soul's purpose?
I love that. I think who are you is always such an interesting question, but some labels and things that I resonate with are healer, definitely healer. I think that's what I've been here to do. Sometimes I really feel at home around herbs, and I believe in a past life I was like some witchy healer person who lived in the forest. So I'm now living in New York City, slightly different, but I'm still helping to heal people. And I believe that my soul's purpose here is really to help people become their own healers and realize that they don't have to live their life suffering with symptoms that they can't do anything about. You don't have to live this mundane getting through the day life. Like, you deserve to have energy when you wake up in the morning, and you deserve to love yourself. And that's what I love to give, so that other people can do what they need to do in the world today.
Beautiful. And I have recently become increasingly exposed to herbalism because I made a dear friend in Costa Rica who's an herbalist and a witch. And I absolutely love it. And it's so empowering to know, especially when you live in the jungle, that I could probably get a medicine for damn near anything that I need medicine for within a square kilometer around me, probably, or less.
Hell yeah. And I think it's really important that we understand that we can be our own healers, and that most medications come from plants. They're derived from plants. People just don't
Yeah.
know that. They're not aware, and that's okay, but there's power in it.
There really is. Speaking about like old paradigms and old systems for hundreds of years, or I don't know how long the pharmaceutical industry has been around, or even before that, what was in its place. But we've been told that we're dependent upon a system to tell us exactly what we need to do to treat our symptoms and to, maybe even cure our diseases, but usually it's just treating symptoms. And herbalism is a step truly in the direction of independence and sovereignty away from that system.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got all sorts of wild jungle noises, some of them animals and some of them children. Children screaming.
Definitely. I have FOMO.
It's part of life. So you're in the so-called concrete jungle now and working as an herbalist. And I really like that you sort of feel like in a past life, and you said like maybe in a past life I was, an herbalist witch, in the woods, but I still think you are. I mean, I absolutely think that's what you're doing in a different context and bringing it to people who wouldn't otherwise be able to access it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for context, I'm not a herbalist. I'm not sure if you accidentally said that, but I have studied herbal medicine, but I'm a naturopath and nutritional therapist. So not a herbalist, but herbal medicine was part of my training, and I do use it in practice as well and have some information about it.
Can you talk to me about sort of what it is that you do then, and how it is distinct from herbalism?
Yeah, absolutely. So herbalism is really just working with plants. and giving, herbal medicines, plant medicines, things like that. But naturopathic medicine, so I have two qualifications: naturopathic medicine, and that's really looking at like the foundations of healing. So food, water, nutrients, like really getting back to our roots. And in that qualification I studied Chinese medicine, iridology, study of the iris, so how to tell how your organs and systems work from your eyes. Chinese medicine, so I can tell how different organ systems and symptoms are coming up in your body from your tongue diagnosis. Really looking at the body and the whole person. Whereas nutritional therapy is more of a biochemistry kind of thing. So it's looking at how the different cells are functioning, looking at all the different systems, neural pathways, like a lot more kind of sciencey. Whereas naturopathic medicine is a bit more kind of like holistic witchy vibe. So I love the blend of the two of them because it's giving like holistic doctor vibe.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's the best of all worlds. So, and sometimes people gravitate towards the sort of the more holistic witchy side, and sometimes people gravitate towards the more medical side, and to have that interwoven exposes one to the other in a beautiful way.
I so hear that, and I totally agree. I want everyone to know I did not come from a background of this. I did not come from a family of spiritual healing people. That was not the way it was. I very much have a normal family in societal standards. This was really a way that was paved for me through, choice, things that happened in my life. I was diagnosed with an incurable illness and just accidentally found this way. And I think a lot of people don't find holistic medicine until they really need it, right? Until they do get woken up and it's like, okay, there's something I need to do here for myself. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like crap every day.
Mm. Can you talk about your journey through that incurable illness and how you got to the other side of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like a very normal girl, I guess you could say, kind of growing up, but I got very heavily into, I had some trauma, definitely. And my dad took his own life when I was younger. And, it was really the stem for disconnecting from emotions, just kind of surviving. And I had a very beautiful childhood in many ways. My mum's incredible, but, there was a lot of issues around men, and I ended up in a cycle in school of like drug and alcohol abuse. I had a drug dealer boyfriend, and that was like a kind of the start of the destruction of my life in many ways, which I'm really grateful for now. But my life and my body started to fall apart. I was very like bullied in school at the time as well, and my girl best friend group had all like shunned me out. I was in an abusive relationship. I was taking drugs and drinking alcohol all the time. And I also got eating disorders, just like binging on food and just binging on stuff, like I didn't think there was another way to live. I just thought that was life, it was normal and everyone else was doing it as well. So it was one of those things like, oh, it's just life. It's just how it goes. And I didn't have any periods for 5 years. And when I was 20 years old, it all kind of came to a head. And I went to go and see a doctor. And I had undiagnosed anxiety and depression, but now I know I definitely had those. Also IBS. And I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they told me I was infertile. So I remember just being in the doctor's office and being like, fuck, I hope you can swear on this podcast because I just did. I'm a swearer.
Yeah, bring on all of the F-bombs. I like them.
And I remember just thinking like, and I swear to you, my first thought was not, oh, I'm going to heal myself and become a healer. My first thought was, no one's going to love me if I can't give them a child. And I know that's like societal bullshit, but that was my first thought. No one's going to love me. And as a human, we seek to be loved, right? And so if no one's going to love me, then how am I going to do life? Suddenly it didn't seem interesting to me anymore. I didn't want to be here. Suicide wasn't an option. So I was like, okay, plan B, I'm going to see if I can figure out a way to heal myself. And I accidentally went to go and see a naturopath. Total accident. I went to all these specialists, spent all this money, got all these private healthcare things. And no one made me feel like seen, heard, loved, understood. No one even told me what PCOS was, other than like the specific diagnosis that, the definition that you Google. And I was just like in this body that I felt hated me. And this naturopath was one of the first people that told me your body is working for you at all times. And I burst out crying and was like, what do you mean?
Mm.
He hates me. Like all of these, I'm bloated every day. I'd gained, probably 4 dress sizes. I had acne, black hair growing up my back, no periods. I had 30 cysts on both my ovaries. I was like, what do you mean? Every area of my life just felt like shit. And so that was really the start of my healing journey. And at the time, I signed up to study in London. I was living in Australia when I got my diagnosis by myself. And so it was a very lonely time. I'd been like moving around the world, running away from my problems for a few years at this point, running away from toxic relationships, and decided to move to London. I'm from England, but I grew up in the countryside. So London was like a new space for me, new city entirely, new people. And I started studying, and I thought I was studying to learn to manage my symptoms. And in one of my first lectures, something happened and the lecturer was like, blah, 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 blah. So I put my hand up in this lecture of like 40 people. And I was like, so if you can do that and then do that, that would mean that you could just reverse PCOS and heal it, right? He's like, yeah. And I burst out crying in front of the class with all these people. I was the only young one there. Everyone's like 40, 50 years old. And I burst out crying and everyone was like hugging me like, yeah, of course you can. You didn't know that? And I was like, no one told me I could heal my body. Everyone just told me I can learn to manage my symptoms, take the birth control pill, take the pain meds, take this, take antidepressants. And I was like, there's another way. And that was it. I eventually, a few years later, completely healed my illness. I went to the doctors and there was absolutely no signs of any of the illnesses or imbalances in my body. Have a beautiful 28-day cycle that is great. No PMS, just no bloating. I lost all the weight. And I mean, the mental, spiritual side of things, like, God, I'm a very different person. I'll say that. So yeah, that's really the main part, I think, of that journey.
Well, first off, just thank you so much for sharing that. All of the whole thing from start to finish was really intimate and moving. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's lots of things came to me as you were talking. I mean, one is like you're just this absolutely radiantly beautiful, very feminine woman sitting in front of me, and to hear your whole journey just like gives me goosebumps, because I know that so many people are going through it in their own ways, either which part of it, whether that's the addiction piece of it, the binging piece of it, the uncurable illness, the hormonal stuff, the being completely disconnected from your own rhythms and your own cycle. Like, to have any of those or all of those things compounding and not knowing that there's a way out. Not only is there a way out of that, but like there's so much transformation potential there. It's a real gift. Like what you alchemized is so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I also want everyone listening to understand, like, this was an accident. I did not think I was a powerful woman that could change my life. Like, I was
Yeah.
just a normal girl, right? Like, there was a time where I genuinely didn't believe in myself at all. I was actually living in Cambodia at one point before my diagnosis. And this guy came up to me on the street. Won't tell you the whole story, go into it. But the gist of it is, I was crying on the street about a guy, the abusive ex. And also just to know, the way we say like abusive ex, it was an abusive relationship with someone who was very hurt in many ways, and that transcended onto me. I was also very hurt in many ways. And yeah, just I think that's really important to note that no, I don't believe anyone is toxic as such. I believe people are toxic for us at different times in our life, because of things they're working through, and we are allowed to remove ourselves from those situations. But it doesn't mean that people are toxic, bad people through and through. And I totally forgive all those things that happen to me now. I really do. But so I'm in Cambodia and I'm crying on the street about the guy. I know you're like, why are you in Cambodia? I don't know why I was in Cambodia. I was just running around trying to figure out who I was. I had a little bit of money from my dad passing away, and it was £1,000 a month. So it was enough to live in Southeast Asia, because it's enough there. Not so much in London, but there it was enough. So I was doing that, and I'm on the street crying, and this guy comes up to me and is like, if I can tell you the name of the guy you're crying about and the name of your mum, will you let me read your fortune? I'm like, well, hell yeah, you can. Like, absolutely. Um, and long story short, he did, and he put the names on a paper, put them in my hand, same names. That threw me off. I was not spiritual. I didn't believe in this kind of stuff. I'm just like, what? It was like the first time I guess I witnessed magic, right? In its pure form. And it was just so coincidental. Like, why me? Why that moment? How did he know? Why did he approach me? Like, I honestly believe that was God working through him in that moment, like thinking about it now. And I didn't grow up religious. I use God interchangeably with like the universe, or as I'm sure many people do. But yeah, and he did, and he read my fortune, and he said to me at the time, I would become a boss and have my own business. At this point, I'm laughing because I'm like, this guy doesn't know anything. This is fake. No way I'll have my own business. What do you mean? I was training at the time to be cabin crew, flight attendant. Like my dad was a pilot, my mum was cabin crew, and I'd failed in school because of all the drug stuff and was like, you know, this is what I'm gonna do. And so he told me I'd have my own business, and I didn't believe him. Like I really didn't believe him. And so just to bring the story full circle, no matter who you feel you are right now, you can always change. Even if you think you'll never be powerful, you'll never have your own business, you'll never thrive, there is so much chance that you can and that you will. And I hope that story gives people hope to understand that you can always change your entire life, no matter how deep in the mud you are.
Ugh, I'm almost speechless because I love what you just said. One thing that I like to say is that I weave with what is. And so that means that no matter the situation is, because I too have felt, I even recently have felt like, okay, I fucked it up so much that there's no way out now. I crossed the line. There's absolutely no hope. I'm a hopeless case. And I have felt like that in the past. And I have, through whatever divine intervention, I have been able to pull myself out with the help of some angelic beings around me. And, you know, in those moments of like being really stuck in the muck like that, it's so helpful to know that no matter how deep you are, you can come back out. And in fact, the deeper you go, the higher your trajectory if you really, really, really leverage that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look into really any inspirational person's story, there was some bullshit there somewhere. Like some mud they had to rise out of, like a lotus flower. And it really does make us who we are. And I mean, you don't have to love it, but you
It's
can
not
also do
fun.
it. Yeah, you don't have to love it. This is not like hashtag love your trauma. I totally get it. But you got to be okay with it. You got to be okay. You have to be peace with it.
And no matter where you are in that process, there is a way to pull through. I mean, there is, and it can be hard to remember that sometimes. But I will echo that for the rest of my life to myself and others.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I love the story of the God intervention, the universe intervention. That's amazing. And for somebody who, you know, might have been skeptical otherwise, it's just like it really seals the deal.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And I love telling people as well I was skeptical. I love people knowing I didn't come from this, or because people a lot of the time they say, oh, it's easy for you to say because, or, like I was not this person. I did not look like this. I did not feel like this. I did not act like this. Even my face changed, like everything changed. You work on your inside and the external does shift, by accident. And I love that it happens by accident, because it doesn't need to be our focus, but I think there's so much to be said for crawling out of the dirt and making something beautiful of your life, and who that creates for you, and what that creates for you as well.
One of the things I like to explore is sort of like, you know, I do feel like these dark nights of the soul moments are really, really important in humanity. I think they're so important on the individual level, but I also know that we've been going through a dark night of the soul collectively for a couple of years, few years, and maybe longer. Um, and and I like to think that we can collectively pull ourselves out of this dark night of the soul, and that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what I'm passionate about. I think my own soul's purpose is all about like, how can I contribute to the awakening of the planet? How can I contribute to creating something new on this planet that is regenerative and sustaining and harmonious with, the spirit of our planet. And gosh, I got so lost in my own thoughts, I forgot where I was going. Except that I'm back, pulling ourselves up collectively into that new way of being is tremendous. And I feel like if each of us individually can sort of recognize that about ourselves, then we have a lot of hope as a species and as a planet, as humanity, to do that collectively. And I feel really excited by the prospect.
I completely agree. I totally agree. I love that you're sharing that message.
Aw. Can you talk some more about your work? And so we know your story, which is epic, and I'd love to know more about what you're doing now and with whom.
Yeah, cool. I'd love to tell you. It's so funny you saying like that's epic, because like to me, I don't see it that way, and I think it's been so interesting. Like I do and I don't. I think it's so interesting to me as you get older, and as I started to get successful in my business, and I found that people would message me and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you messaged me back." And I'd be like, it really helped me connect to like, celebrities in a way that I always saw as these like idols in, not human people. Like, and I think anyone receiving a compliment or someone saying, "Wow, you did that. That's amazing." It's like, there's also the receiving of that, right? I think, and you can hear my story and be like, "Wow, that's incredible," and feel like, my story's not as cool or good, but I promise you, there's no one really out there that truly tremendously is like, mine is the coolest story ever, like this, because you're just living in it, you're just doing it, you're just doing your everyday life, you're just getting through, and it can feel mundane in the moments, right? But we get to then look back on these things and think, wow, that was incredible that I did that. And so again, bringing it back to you, if you're listening to this, even if you feel like today is like the mundane day, you're just listening to us to going for a walk, or you're doing what you're doing, it can all add up into a really beautiful story for you.
Absolutely. I love the framing retrospectively of my own life as a heroine's journey. And, and I'm like, wow, so that huge failure that happened that year totally made it so that I could be at this point now and have this story to look back on. And if I hadn't gone through that fire, then I wouldn't be who I am today. And if you just kind of own that story as opposed to the I'm a failure story, then you will create real magic in your life.
It's also just a plot twist, we're all the main
Totally.
characters in our own little movies, and it's like, all right, plot twist, let's go. Let's see where this one goes. And you look at any movie that ends in an inspirational way, there was an up, there was a down, and then there was an up. It's just life. It's been taught to us for years. But okay, so what am I doing? I ask myself the same question sometimes. So I work predominantly with women, just completely by accident that happened, I guess, just through my own story, and women connected to it more because it happened to be about hormones. But I would take on any client, but mostly women. Really, people come to me in clinic. I have a private clinic. It's online completely. I have one-to-one clients and I have group programs. So my one-to-one clients, people just come to me when they're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, to be honest with you. That's the most of the people that come to me, and a lot of people think that anxiety, depression, bloating, none of it's linked. People don't understand why they have it, and therefore they don't understand what to do about it. And so they're seeking answers. And a lot of people that end up coming to me, they've been to other practitioners or doctors and felt very unseen and unheard and unloved. And they kind of find me and see that the way I do things is really through love, and very much through like the concept of I go through it, I do the journey, and then I come back and I hold your hand as you do the journey. And that really became the philosophy for the way I do things, because it's not about I've done it, I'm better than you. It's like, I've done it, I can help you. And that's really kind of what I end up doing. I work with my one-to-one clients to heal their chronic illness and disease. And it could be something as wild as an autoimmune condition, or it could be something as small as, PMS and bloating, and helping people change their life and feel good in their bodies. And it's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional healing, because you know, I could give anyone a diet plan that would heal their illness or heal their dis-ease, their issues, the symptoms and stuff they have come up. But we have to look at why we have the behaviors that lead us to doing the destructible things that don't serve us anyway. Because anyone can follow something really if they try hard enough for 6 weeks, but it's like, then they're just by themselves and they're off, right? And they're out on their own. And so my goal is to make people their own healer. So they know how to handle the situations when something is triggering a year down the line and they want to binge or drink or, you know, go back to an old way of being. They then have the tools to know how to hold themselves in that, you know, rather than I need someone else. It's like I can reach for support and that's totally okay and healthy, but I trust myself and I trust my body.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's absolutely what we need on this planet. Exactly. Like circling back to what we were talking about before of like, we have to get more in tune with our own bodies and our own cycles and our own rhythms, and our own self-healing abilities so that we can disengage from our dependencies on the external, particularly externals that are very much in it for profit, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really grateful for the work that you do. Do you primarily work when you work with one-on-one clients? Is it with people who are in the same area in New York City, or do you work online as well?
Oh God, no, I have no clients in New York. All over the world, mainly UK and US, just coincidentally, just because the engagement is high for me there because I've lived in both places, but really people all over the world. There's no country, you know, where I'm like, I wouldn't work with you, you live there. If you have a laptop and you've got a computer screen, you know, that's all you need. Some of my clients come into the calls on their phones. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to do. And, you know, I work with a small number of clients because it's really important to me they get that full experience where they really feel like, you know, they're supported, and make sure I don't burn out and I have time and space and energy to, you know, fill up my own cup, because that's what I teach and therefore that is what I do. And yeah, so I work with a small number of clients, but I've started group programs and things like that because, first of all, I think community is just everything. Like the transformations I've seen in the community spaces I've held, like in the group containers, like I have one at the minute called the Hormone Solution. And it's not really just about our hormones, it's really about complete life healing, with the focus on hormonal systems, so specifically for women, and their sex hormones. But it's an incredible group, and seeing women heal in sisterhood is something so beautiful. You know, if you can find near you any local sharing circles, women's ones, men's ones, you know, everything in between, like if you can find a circle and a community of people you can be in, it's so healing. It's so important for us. You know, we are traditionally meant to be in community, in tribes, part of something, have a purpose within that tribe. And so that's why we can feel really, really lost when we haven't got a connection to that kind of thing. So in these group programs I've run, you know, it's just the healing somehow is just incredible. Even though it's not at one-to-one time with me, it's still just as good as the one-to-ones in so many ways, because you also get that community stuff in there, you know.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I feel like that is a huge part of what needs to awaken increasingly on our planet right now, is that sense of community and that sense of the village or the tribe or however you want to name it. And it's us all. So there's the sovereignty aspect. I've been meaning to look at a domain, Sovereign Together. I need to go check and see if that's available, because I love it so much, where it's like we are sovereign and we do understand that we must trust ourselves and understand our own divinity and our own power. And we can't actually do it all by ourselves. We have to have community, and we have to have each other, because we aren't as independent as I may be. I'm not an expert in everything, and I don't know how to do everything. There are other people in my village or in my community that have something to offer. And I just feel like living in that exchange of beautiful reciprocity with the people around us is absolutely where we're headed.
Yeah. And something I always say as well is like, you don't get a gold medal for suffering. Like you don't get a gold medal for suffering the hardest. Like reach out to someone, reach out.
Yeah.
you know, even if that's like a
Yeah.
friend or, you know, a local yoga class or whatever is your thing. I'm labeling things that, you know, that I do because they come to mind, but whatever is your thing, you know, find a thing and go and do it. You know, even if it's quite tidy in your room. Sometimes I tidy my space and I'm like, oh yeah, here I am.
Putting on really, really uplifting music, you know, or something that you know will inspire you in some way, or something that you know will help you to release an emotion, and just sort of expel something from you, I feel like is also super helpful. That's like my favorite is the power of therapeutic music and dancing.
Yeah, I love to dance. Don't Yeah, I used to dance on my stories every single day. I still have a couple of highlights saved on there of me dancing on my stories every day, which is hilarious, but they are no longer they're still there, the highlights. I don't do it every day, but I would say like once every few days I have a little boogie on the story. I love it. It's so much
Yeah,
fun.
you've got awesome IG game. I checked it out before I call, and it's you've got really good game. I still have yet a lot to be desired in my IG game. So
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for the inspiration.
It's funny. It does, you know, it took a while to get to the place of doing that. And, you know, as well, I still see all the things that I'm not doing, you know, so it's nice to have feedback. And again, that's why community is so important, because no matter who you are, you still need, well, you still desire and, you know, receive a lot of support and beautiful things from having compliments, from having support, from having people seeing you, and sharing that. And something I'll say as well is like, I do get a fair few DMs, but when someone DMs me and like takes a moment out of their day to say thank you for my existence, or to say I loved this post, it really resonated with me, or, you know, this made me think about this, like, it means the world to me. And like, do that for the people that you support in your community online. I swear to you, even if they don't have the energy or the capacity to respond in that moment, don't take it personally. Trust that any single person that's a creator online or doing something that you admire, they'll receive that message. And people look, unless you're like super, super famous and you're getting like thousands a day, people look, people are nosy, they want to know what people say about them. So people are looking, and I have to say, like, it really is such a beautiful gift to receive. And it really motivates you. You know, it really motivates you, like, people are listening and I'm going to keep doing the thing. So whoever that person is online that you are just loving right now, like, reach out to them and just say thank you for your existence, or just, you know, like their stuff. Or it's really important, you know, and it definitely keeps me motivated. It keeps me going when the content is working, you know, when it's like people are like, thank you so much, that really landed. It definitely really helps.
Well, I imagine that you get a lot of those, and I imagine that you'll get more after people hear your beautiful message on this episode. Can you tell us how we can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is at the Arabella Solution, and my website is thearabellasolution.com. And that's all the places. My email is on Instagram, but I'm in the DMs. You know, I pick up messages there for the most part.
DM Arabella. She reads them all and she responds to many of them.
Seriously though, it is nice. It is definitely really
Yeah.
nice. And I think people think, well, I do this, right? Like, and it's a reminder to myself as well, because I'll be like, I'm not going to message them. Everyone else messages them, you know, like,
Mhm.
they don't want to hear from me. But I have, you know, I've made an effort in the last like 6 months, year, to reach out to the people that really inspire me and I admire. And it always feels good to do that, you know? So also with your family, with your friends, like, I heard that Tony Robbins, in the morning, in his part of his morning routine every day, he said that he sends a text or a voice note to someone just sharing his gratitude.
Mm.
And I just think it's so beautiful. And he said, do it for things that you feel like they wouldn't have noticed, or you wouldn't typically say thank you for. So not like, oh, thank you for doing, you know, thank you for those flowers you just bought me yesterday. Of course you're going to say thank you, but it's more of a just like, hey, I noticed you doing that thing and I thought it was really cool of you. And I just want to say I'm really grateful to have you in my life.
Mm.
And starting your day off with that. And I think that's so beautiful, right? And so when I'm saying this, like, it also includes your family and friends, the people in your life that you admire, or people that just support you, you know, like, send them, like, my task to you right now is send one person in your life just something nice of gratitude. Sharing that and spreading that is just, yeah, we all need that.
That is some high vibe shit right there. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you. I'm grateful we connected. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been so lovely to connect with you. And yeah, just I guess thank you. My gratitude right now is to you, and thank you so much for holding this space and for having this podcast and for getting up and doing the thing when you don't feel like it. I know it's going to really help a lot of people. So I'm always really grateful to other people, and especially women. Not to put down men, but I'm a girl's girl. Women doing cool things in this life just really excites me. And yeah, it's been so lovely to get to know you a bit better.
Mm, mwah, likewise. Listeners, thank you so much for being here today. We love you and have a gorgeous rest of your day.